everyone, this is Don Olding from Go Live Dare. We are coming to you live from our world headquarters on the south coast of KwaZulu-Natal. I'm joking, obviously, this is going to be videoed and edited, but it's for you guys who are part of a gospel advancing movement. And we're excited that you came to lead the cause this year, but it doesn't stop there. I want to talk to you today about the 5 stages of a gospel advancing ministry. And this is part of a movement that we are part of with our partners Dare to Share in the States. And so if you go online to Gospel Advancing, just Google in the block Gospel Advancing Ministry, it'll take you to the Gospel Advancing Ministry website, and you can be a part of that. But today I want to talk to you about stages of a gospel advancing ministry. There are different stages in life. We've got seasons. We go through stages and seasons of grief, stages and seasons of love, and there's so many of those. I did some research. I was looking for an illustration, and to be honest with you, I didn't find any. But today I want to talk to you about the 5 stages of a gospel advancing ministry. And so part of this diagram that my wife did, and I'm so grateful to her, is just to help us illustrate at what stage are you at in your ministry. I know that there have been guys coming to lead the cause for the last 3 years. Some of the guys came to me and said, Don, we are starting to get it. And ultimately what you're saying to me is, Don, we are starting to see growth in the different stages of a gospel advancing ministry. And so, you know, when we look at stage 1, kind of when I talk about committing, when we commit to something, we are kind of planting our flag and saying, hey, as a youth leader, I'm going to take this on. I want to do what God has called me to do in terms of the Great Commission of, you know, making disciples who make disciples. And so we see the early church example of Corinth, and also if you look at it, they were spiritually immature. But part of that was Paul encouraging them to grow. And so you need to ask yourself where you at in terms of a gospel advancing ministry. Are you at stage 1 at the commit level? It starts with you as the leader and saying, hey, I'm planting my flag and I'm going to do this thing, because you ultimately model it. Or are you at stage 2, kind of coming alongside the vision and saying, hey, let's start getting the team involved, you know, the ministry team. And so the early church example of that's Antioch, and you can look that up. But you can also look it up on the Gospel Advancing site. But this is when they're starting to gain spiritual momentum. This is where they're starting to align with, hey, we want to be on the same page of what God has called us to do. Not just run ministry. When I was a youth pastor, Friday nights I was just focused on the Friday nights. We had 300 teens coming. All I did was fun. So all we did was the fun aspect of it. And ultimately, it's about the cause, the greatest cause that we can live out in our ministries. And once you look at these different stages, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, I think a lot of guys are starting to, those who have been coming for the last 3 years to lead the cause event, stage 3 is kind of the guys are starting to prioritize their programs and starting to be more strategic with what they do. I think about the youth ministry in Joburg at Rosebank Every Nation Church with Mark Titley. I know the guys came for their 3rd year, but they came as this is part of an equipping and training event for them. And they strategically placed this in their calendars as part of the growth process. And so they, after the LTC event in Joburg at the Four Ways God First Church, they went out to Botswana and did some ministry in the community with even the guys who came from Botswana. And so we're starting to see that momentum and the growth of programming your priorities. And the early church example of that is Jerusalem. And then we're starting to see church growth, where youth ministry is starting to impact, in this case, not only another youth ministry, but another country of teens. And this is kind of what makes us excited about this. This is what we want to see happen in South Africa, where we're activating a generation. And if we look at the next growth stage of Accelerate, we want to see ultimately young people getting excited about the cause. When they're going into their schools, where they're modeling this and they're living it out, and their faith being activated is what makes us super excited. And then the early church example of this is the Church of Thessalonica. And so They were a model of what they were hoping to achieve when it comes to replicating disciples and making disciples. And that leads us to stage 5 ultimately, and this is where we all want to be, you know. Stage 5, multiply. Real success is replication. Our first Lead the Cause event 2 years ago was the theme replicate. We want to see this replicated across the country in South Africa. And so part of our follow-up with you guys as leaders, as core leaders, as youth pastors, we want to see that you're starting to implement the 5 stages of a gospel advancing ministry. And so if you go online to the gospel app, you download the app, it's Gospel Advancing Ministry app, and you can actually do the diagnostic online. And so the cool thing is, DataShare have updated that diagnostic. And so there are 12 questions that they ask you. You click the link, very simple. And I'm just showing you here for the sake of this. So Gospel Advancing Diagnostic, and then the first one is, on average, how often do you engage in relational evangelism, verbally sharing the gospel with someone you know outside the youth group meetings? And then there's about once a month, about once a week, a couple of times a year. I can't remember the last time I shared the gospel personally. And so you can just fill it in, and it's 12 questions. When you're done with this, they'll send you straight away. You just got to wait, keep the app open, and they'll send you the results straight away. And it will kind of tell you at what stage you're part on that group. And so we'd like to know from you guys, and you can send us an email. And this will pop up now, don@golofdare.co.za. Send us your results. We want to see and track with you in terms of where you are as a gospel advancing movement. And every month we're going to send out a video to you just to encourage you and talk about the different stages a bit more in depth. This is almost like an overview. Greg does a better job at this on a video than me, but this is just for us as Go Live Dare, as we move forward together as a gospel advancing ministry.